All right, so, whenever world leaders have one of these big phone calls, the statements they put out afterwards are always a bit of an exercise in creative writing.
Absolutely. You expect a little spin.
You expect a little spin. One side says it was constructive, the other says it was frank.
Right. Frank is the classic code for they argued.
Exactly. But what happened this past Wednesday between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping? I mean, that was something else entirely. It wasn't just spin.
No, it was like they were describing two completely different phone calls.
Yeah.
A real study in cognitive dissonance.
It really was. You have President Trump on one side calling the conversation excellent and thorough. Almost sounds warm,
Like a standard diplomatic chat.
Yeah.
But then you get the readout from Beijing and the temperature just plummets.
Plummets is the right word. They didn't see it as excellent.
Not at all. For them, it was a chance to deliver a very, very stark warning.
And that gap right there between excellent and stark warning, that's where we're going to live for this deep dive. Because this is about more than just a phone call.
We're looking at sources today that point to a massive collision coming. We've got a potential $20 billion arms deal, a high-stakes diplomatic game of chicken.
And the part that complicates everything, an internal political crisis in Taiwan that might just make the whole argument irrelevant.
Yeah, that's the twist. But before we get to that paradox, we have to understand the threat. The stark warning from Xi, it wasn't just vague diplomatic language.
No, it was very specific. It was tied directly to the calendar.
Right, April. The planned state visit.
Exactly. President Trump is scheduled to visit China, and you know how much this administration values that kind of high-level, face-to-face pageantry.
It's more than a meeting. It's a legitimizing event. It's where big deals get finalized.
This is a massive diplomatic carrot.
And based on our sources, China is now explicitly using that carrot as a stick.
That's the trade-off they're putting on the table. During the call, Xi told Trump that Taiwan is, quote, the most important issue in China-U.S. relations.
Not trade, not tech.
Right.
Taiwan. He singled it out, said China will never allow Taiwan to secede, and urged, quote, extreme caution. But the real message, which sources at the Financial Times are highlighting, came in private channels.
And that message was?
That the April visit is conditional. That if these arms sales go forward, the trip could be off.
Wow. I mean, threatening to cancel a U.S. president's visit. That's serious brinkmanship.
It is, and we have some analysis here from Ryan Haas over the Brookings Institution. He's not someone who uses hyperbole.
Oh, very measured.
He looked at the phrasing and noted that Xi's message was direct and forceful. But more than that, Haas says Xi is signaling that if Trump does come in April, it's not going to be a friendly photo op.
What the?
Xi's planning to have a serious and formal conversation about Taiwan.
Serious and formal. That's diplomatic code for we're going to lock the doors and have it out.
Pretty much. It means Taiwan will hijack the entire agenda. The summit either becomes a crisis meeting or it just doesn't happen at all.
So the big question is, why now? The U.S. has sold weapons to Taiwan for decades. It's literally required by law.
Taiwan Relations Act, yeah.
So why is this package triggering such a huge response from Beijing?
It's the sheer volume of it.
Yeah.
And the shift in capability. You have to look at the numbers. The Pentagon is prepping a new package worth up to $20 billion.
$20 billion? That's a staggering number for a single sale.
It is. But you have to see it in context with what happened just a couple of months ago in December.
Right, there was another big one then.
An $11 billion sale. That was already a record breaker. It included things like 82 HIMARS rocket systems.
Okay, let's pause on that for a second. The inventory. 420 ATAS-CMS long-range missiles were in that package. We've all heard about those from other conflicts. These aren't just, defensive missiles for shooting down a plane, are they?
No, not at all. And that's why this changes the strategic math for Beijing.
Yeah.
ATAS-CMS can strike targets deep into the mainland.
So they could hit staging areas for an invasion.
Potentially. They give Taiwan a much longer reach. It's a profound deterrent. When you sell 420 of those, plus the launchers, you're not just selling defense anymore.
So we had $11 billion in December, the largest sale in history. And now, before the ink is even dry, there's another $20 billion on the table.
Precisely. That's $31 billion of high-end weaponry in, a single fiscal quarter. It's not maintenance. It's a fortress-building strategy.
And this new package has, Patriot missiles?
Patriot missiles, advanced surface-to-air systems. It's all designed to make the airspace over the Taiwan Strait a no-fly zone for any attacker.
So this is the whole porcupine strategy we hear about. Make the island too prickly to invade.
That's the U.S. doctrine. But from Beijing's perspective, this looks like a massive acceleration. They see it as paving the way for independence.
They already responded to the December sale with military drills, right?
2 full days of them, encircling the island. So now, faced with a package nearly twice as big, they're moving from military signals to direct diplomatic coercion.
And the State Department's justification for all this?
Oh, they're sticking to the script. Their statement says these sales are, quote, consistent with the policy pursued by 9 different U.S. administrations.
So, business as usual?
They're framing it as routine, a legalistic defense. The policy hasn't changed, technically.
But the scale has exploded. It feels a bit like saying, oh, this $31 billion check, just routine maintenance.
And that friction between the U.S. claiming consistency and China claiming this is a massive escalation, that's what's putting the April visit in jeopardy.
Okay, so we've got the standoff between Washington and Beijing. But this is where the story gets really interesting and, frankly, a bit strange.
Right. We need to talk about Taiwan itself.
Because while the two superpowers are staring each other down, Taipei is, well, it seems like they're having some internal problems.
Paralysis is probably the right word. This is the central irony of the whole situation. The U.S. is willing to sell the weapons.
And Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, is desperate to buy them.
But he might not be able to. Legally, Taiwan might not be able to write the check.
So President Lai comes out right after the Trump-Xi call, and he's projecting total confidence. He says the U.S. relationship is rock solid.
He has to. He's telling everyone cooperation will continue without interruption. He's trying to calm the waters.
But those are just words. Confident words don't actually pay for billions in missiles, and according to our sources, the money isn't there.
The money has been proposed, but it's completely blocked. Lai's administration put forward a special defense budget, about $40 billion, to cover all these purchases.
So what's the problem?
The problem is Taiwanese democracy. Lai's party doesn't control the parliament. The opposition does. And they've frozen the entire budget.
So why are they blocking it? Is this just political gamesmanship, or is there a real strategic disagreement?
It's a bit of both. The opposition claims the budget lacks proper oversight, that it's rushed. But there's also a political angle. By blocking the budget, they deny President Lai a major political victory and gain leverage on other issues. But the collateral damage here is enormous.
It seems like incredibly high-stakes politics, but what really stood out to me in the reporting is that this isn't just about money. There's a ticking clock, isn't there?
There is. A very real one.
Yeah.
You have to remember, global arms manufacturing is maxed out right now.
Because of Ukraine, the Middle East.
Exactly. The production lines for things like Patriot missiles are backed up for years. Our sources say Taiwan is already asking to extend the deadlines on these purchase agreements.
Because if they miss their window to sign.
They lose their place in line. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry itself has warned that if the budget doesn't pass, they could face postponed deliveries.
Someone else will just take their spot.
Another country will step right in. Poland, maybe? Or even the U.S. Army itself. The manufacturer isn't going to wait around.
So let me get this straight. Xi Jinping is threatening a diplomatic crisis to stop these weapons from being sold.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump is risking that crisis to offer the weapons.
Right. And in the middle of it all, the Taiwanese parliament is effectively doing China's work for them by blocking the payment.
That is the grim irony of the situation. The most effective blockade right now isn't the Chinese Navy. It's a committee meeting in Taipei.
It really just shatters that simple narrative of superpower A versus superpower B.
It does. We often treat Taiwan as this passive object in the game, but they are a very active player with their own messy, gridlocked democracy that can completely derail everything.
It all comes back to leverage. Xi is leveraging the summit against Trump, but the ultimate leverage might be held by the Taiwanese opposition with the power of the purse.
And that brings us back to that serious conversation Ryan Haas mentioned for April. If this budget is still frozen by then, the whole dynamic changes.
How so?
Now, the U.S. could be in the awkward spot of defending an arms sale that its partner hasn't even agreed to pay for yet. It makes the rock-solid alliance look pretty shaky.
And on the flip side, if the budget does pass next week, then we're right back to the original crisis. Then we are. If the deal is signed, China has to decide if its threat was a bluff. Do they really cancel a state visit with Donald Trump over this?
Historically, canceling a presidential state visit is a huge diplomatic insult.
A massive one.
Oh.
It freezes the relationship, and neither side really wants that given how economically entangled they are. But Xi drew a very public line in the sand.
And there's nothing ambiguous about 420 long-range missiles to help him walk it back.
Exactly. The hardware is very real.
You know, it really makes you think about what we do in these deep dives. We're always trying to find the signal in the noise. The noise here is excellent versus stark warning. That's political theater. The signal. The signal is the production cue for the
And
missile.
signal is the logistics.
Yeah.
Strategy is really just logistics in a tuxedo. And everyone's strategy here depends on it.
So before we wrap this up, why should you, listening at home, care about the details of the Taiwanese legislative process? It feels so in the weeds.
Because it's a perfect reminder that these huge geopolitical crises don't happen in a vacuum. We focus on the presidents and the dictators. But so often, the real pivot point of history is a budget committee meeting in a smaller country.
We watch the kings and queens, but the game can be decided by a pawn who just refuses to move.
Or a pawn who forgot to bring their wallet.
Right, a pawn who forgot their wallet.
Yeah.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. We've been dissecting this whole threat of a ghost deal, weapons offered, but not actually bought.
A deal that exists on paper, but maybe not in reality.
Exactly. But think about this. Does China know Taiwan's budget is blocked? Of course they do. Their intelligence there is excellent.
No doubt.
So is it possible this entire diplomatic blow-up, the threat to the summit, the stark warning, is it all just performative? Is Xi threatening Trump over a deal he knows might die on its own anyway?
That is a fascinating thought. It would let China look incredibly tough, draw a red line, and bank on Taiwan's own politics to make sure the line is never actually crossed.
It's a way to win the fight without ever having to throw a punch.
The ultimate Sun Tzu move. Win the battle because your enemy defeated themselves in a budget hearing.
It's definitely something to think about. We'll be watching that parliament vote very closely. If the money moves, the missiles move.
And if the missiles move, April gets very, very interesting.
Thanks for breaking this all down with me.
Anytime. It was great to dig into the details.
And to you listening, thanks for your time. Keep an eye on the diplomatic readouts, but maybe keep a closer eye on the receipts. We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.